The I-70 killer, the ghost of the highway. Imagine it's 1992. You're managing a small shoe store, the kind where the loudest thing that normally happens is a toddler having a meltdown about Velcro straps. The day feels normal, too normal, until a quiet man steps through the door. He doesn't browse, he doesn't smile, he doesn't even pretend to be a customer. He just asks if you have a certain item in the back room. You turn around, walk through the curtain, and suddenly realize he followed you. You hear the sound of a gun being cocked. You don't have time to scream. This wasn't a movie. This was the real routine of the man now known as the I-70 killer. He earned the name because every murder he committed happened just miles off Interstate 70, one of the longest highways in America. A perfect hunting ground, endless travel, constant anonymity, and victims who were isolated, working alone, and often in small shops nobody paid attention to. Between 1992 and 1994, and possibly as late as 2001, this man executed victim after victim with chilling consistency. Retail store, female employee, alone. Small caliber gunshot to the back of the head. No struggle, no motive, no robbery. Just a clean, emotionless execution. It was murder for murder's sake. Some cases broke his pattern. A male victim here, 2 victims at once there. But the method never changed. And despite years of investigation, despite witnesses, sketches, and even modern DNA technology, the killer never left enough behind to reveal who he was. Authorities believe he's still alive, somewhere between 52 and 70 years old. Maybe he stopped killing. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he simply changed how he does it. What's certain is simple. He walked away from at least 6 murders, maybe 9, maybe more, and he's still out there. The eastbound strangler, the ditch behind the motel. Now fast forward to 2006 in a rundown motel outside Atlantic City. You're walking your dog trying to clear your head when your dog starts pulling toward an overgrown drainage ditch. You think he smells a raccoon or a leftover sandwich, but you follow him anyway. Then you see a shoe, then a leg, then a body, then 3 more. All 4 women were sex workers. All 4 were carefully placed face down, 6 feet apart, heads all pointing east, socks and shoes removed, strangled, and left like pieces in a grim, symmetrical puzzle. The press named him the Eastbound Strangler, a killer who seemed organized, methodical, and comfortable placing bodies in an area he clearly knew well. And that's basically all anyone knows. 4 victims, identical circumstances, 0 suspects. Because strangling someone requires strength, investigators believe the killer was likely not elderly at the time. And since 2006 wasn't that long ago, the odds are frighteningly high that he's still alive. And if he wanted to keep killing, it wouldn't be hard. Just pick a different location and a different method. A serial killer doesn't have to stop. They simply stop leaving bodies behind in the same place. The Jeff Davis 8, the case that makes no sense. Next, we head to Jennings, Louisiana, a tiny town drowning in secrets. Between 2005 and 2009, 8 women vanished and later turned up dead. They weren't strangers. They knew one another. Some worked together. Some lived together. Some were even police informants who snitched on each other to the same officers. Their bodies were dumped in swamps and canals, often too decomposed for the exact cause of death to be determined, but evidence suggested asphyxiation, drowning, or neck trauma. At first glance, it looks like the work of one serial killer targeting vulnerable women. But then the theories start stacking up like a conspiracy buffet. Why were so many victims police informants? Why were some reportedly last seen getting into police vehicles? Why did certain officers lose key evidence? Why was no one, not a single person, ever arrested in a case involving 8 murders in 4 years? Investigators, journalists, and locals still argue over whether this was the work of a serial killer or something deeper, darker, and institutional. Either way, nobody has been charged, nobody has been named, and whoever is responsible, one killer or many, is very likely still out there. The West Mesa Bone Collector, 11 bodies under the sand. Now we travel to Albuquerque, 2009. A man hiking on the desert mesa looks down and spots what he thinks is an odd rock sticking out of the dirt. He kneels down. It's a human bone. Police arrive and begin to dig. They find one body, then another, then another. By the time the excavation ends, 11 women and girls are uncovered, all buried by the same unknown killer. Because the victims were skeletonized, cause of death couldn't be determined. But trauma was present, and all the bodies were wrapped and concealed with a level of planning that suggests the killer expected, and needed, total silence. The victims were mostly sex workers or women struggling with homelessness and addiction. Among them was a pregnant woman and a 15-year-old girl. The murders occurred between 2001 and 2005. And despite forensic teams, FBI support, and national attention, the killer was never found. In fact, the area was being actively developed, meaning construction may have destroyed evidence before anyone even realized bones were there. 4 years, 11 victims, 0 suspects. The West Mesa bone collector didn't want to be found, and so far, he hasn't been. The Rainbow Killer, a predator in the park. The next case takes us to Brazil, where between 2007 and 2008, a man began targeting gay men at parks and meeting spots in Sao Paulo. Every victim was shot in the head with clinical, cold-blooded precision. Locals called him the Rainbow Killer, and for once, even the police admitted the killer might be one of their own. In fact, a police officer was accused directly by eyewitnesses. One witness claimed to have seen him execute a man with 12 gunshots. Another witness said they often saw this same officer lurking in the park where victims were hunted. But despite the testimonies, the officer was acquitted in court. And without him, the case fell apart. To this day, the identity of the Rainbow Killer remains a phantom, and the murders remain unsolved. The poisoned vending machine drinks, the toxic gifts. Now let's go to Japan, 1985. Imagine you see a perfectly sealed drink sitting on top of a vending machine, something that's genuinely normal during buy one, get one free promotions. People leave their extra drink for the next customer as a kindness. Only this time, somebody poisoned the drinks. 13 people died. 35 were hospitalized, all because someone laced energy drinks with paraquat, a herbicide so deadly that even a small amount can shut down organs. There were no fingerprints, no camera footage, no ransom notes, no manifesto, just quiet, random, merciless poisoning. Authorities eventually stopped focusing on who did it and instead focused on teaching the public how not to get poisoned, which is sort of the opposite of catching the killer. No arrests were ever made, and considering the timing, the killer could still be alive today. The Danilovsky Maniac, the Artist of Death. Russia contributes one of the most disturbing killers on this list, a man nicknamed the Danilovsky Maniac, who murdered at least 7 women between 2004 and 2007. Many of the bodies were found in abandoned construction sites, and each scene had a bizarre, chilling signature. He left crude, graphic drawings beside the victims, almost like taunts or trophies, sketched messages for the police. Despite interviewing hundreds of people, offering rewards, and involving multiple branches of law enforcement, nobody was ever caught. Authorities estimate the killer is likely still alive, somewhere between 58 and 73. And that vague description, male, older, possibly balding, could be half the country. The Highway of Death, Mexico's open-air hunting ground. Now we shift into the active right now category. In Mexico exists a 136-mile stretch of highway so infamous it earned the name the Highway of Death. Since 2020, over 71 confirmed murders have occurred there, and over 200 disappearances might be connected. Some victims survived long enough to report being kidnapped by armed men, tortured, and then released or escaping. Cartel involvement seems likely, but authorities refuse to rule out lone killers operating within the chaos. It's not one killer. It's a hunting ground. The Highway of Tears, Canada's unspoken tragedy. Meanwhile in Canada, Highway 16, known as the Highway of Tears, has been a killing ground for over 5 decades. More than 80 Indigenous women and girls have disappeared or been murdered along the route since 1970. Police believe multiple killers across generations are responsible. Some cases are linked to human traffickers, some to opportunistic predators, and some to killers who were never identified. It's not a single serial killer, it's a legacy of violence. And it hasn't stopped. The toy car murderers, vigilantes of Sinaloa. Next, we have possibly the strangest serial killer group on the list, the toy car murderers of Sinaloa, Mexico. Someone, or a group of someones, began hunting car thieves. Their method was straightforward: find the thief, shoot them in the head, leave a toy car on the body as a calling card. A vigilante justice group, a cartel making a statement, a moral crusader gone rogue. No one knows. The murders continued through 2023 and investigators still have no suspects. The Little Rock stabber, 3 kills, 0 clues. From 2020 to 2023, 3 people in Little Rock. Arkansas were stabbed to death in separate nighttime attacks. Police believe the same person is responsible. The wounds, timing, and locations match. Still, there are no suspects, no cameras, not even a description to work with. A killer walked through neighborhoods, stabbed multiple people to death, and vanished. The Jankel grave, 4 boys, 1 horror. In Pakistan 2020, a farmer discovered a shallow grave containing 4 teenage boys. 1 was decapitated, 2 were stoned to death, 1 was shot. Police couldn't link the killings to any group, any dispute, or any ritual. Nobody knows who did it, or why, or whether the killer has struck again. The Fana beheadings, a ritual killer in Africa. Between 2018 and 2022 in Mali, 10 people were beheaded and drained of blood in what authorities believed were ritualistic killings. Some of the heads were found in different locations from the bodies. Despite international involvement, including the United Nations, the killer, or killers, have never been identified. This case is still active. Kenya's vampire, 42 victims and an escape. And finally, the most recent and most terrifying case. Vampire, a Kenyan serial killer who murdered at least 42 women between 2022 and 2024. He was captured, he escaped, and some believe police helped him do it. He is considered armed, dangerous, and very much alive. The final thoughts, they're still out there. Every case in this script is real. Every victim had a name, a family, and a life that ended in terror. And what makes these cases different from the ones you hear about in podcasts or Netflix specials is simple. These killers were never caught. Some are probably retired. Some are probably still killing. Some may be standing behind someone right now in a grocery store, acting like they're choosing which cereal to buy. Serial killers don't glow. They don't look like movie villains. And the ones who are never caught are often the ones who look the most ordinary. But here's the truth. Most unsolved cases aren't unsolvable. They were just handled too late, too slowly, or too poorly. And the killer slipped through the cracks. So as you finish this video, remember, every case here remains open. And every killer here is still out there. Stay aware. Stay safe. And if you want something a little less nightmare fueling to watch next, check out the video on screen about how the worst serial killers did get caught, because justice does win sometimes. Thanks for watching. Trust me, bro.